We can all agree that playing games is a very serious business. Super hot. Never mind that the word play means to engage in activity for enjoyment and recreation rather than a serious or practical purpose. We know the truth. And truthfully, we love listing games in order of how seriously great they are or how much they seriously suck. And so, in that grand tradition, I present to you my top 10 games of 2024. These are the games that I have found the most satisfying, the most engaging, and don't tell the serious gamers, but also for me, the most fun this past year. And we gotta start with some quick-fire honorable mentions. These are games I really enjoyed this year, and if any of these keywords pique your interest, then you should really go check them out for yourself. My tea is so hot, I'm gonna put it down. Flip 7, easy to teach card game, push your luck, a la blackjack, great with a big group. Compile, 2-player card game, area majority and control, cool interactive card powers. Inori, tight worker placement and set collection, interesting tactical choices, a little mean but not too mean, really, really pretty. Architects of Amethyst, 2 players only, a tic-tac-toe mechanism, worker and tile placement, so many interesting choices to be made for scoring. The Yellow House, 2-player card game themed around Van Gogh, an actually unique take on trick-taking and hand management. And now that those very cool games have been mentioned honorably, we can now get into the proper list with game number 10. Divinus is a competitive, legacy, tile-laying digital hybrid game in which you play as a demigod seeking to gain the favor of the gods and ascend to a new pantheon. That is taken straight from the Board Game Geek description, and it didn't make sense to reword it here. It's too good. This game uses an app that tracks your choices as you play through the narrative, and what happens in future games changes based on those choices, and maybe a specific event is triggered because of something you did last game. Hoisted by your own petard. Or, made into a demigod, or whatever. This is the kind of legacy game where you're putting stickers on tiles, you're making permanent changes to the game, you're actually changing your dice with stickers, and that changes your gameplay possibilities with each chapter. It's got the feeling of a Euro with tile drafting and laying, but also you're rolling dice to determine the actions available to you and completing quests and interacting with the narrative. It's perfect for Omni gamers, and I think the interactivity of the app it's so neat. It feels like your choices really matter. It's such a fun game, and it has a post-campaign infinite replayability mode, if that kind of thing matters to you. It just feels like the kind of campaign game that you'd, actually play all the way through. Yeah, it's still really hot. Next up at number 9 is Fractured Sky from IV Studios. I really love so much of what IV Studios does. Their production on their games is just about unmatched by anyone else as far as I'm concerned. Fractured Sky has these lovely little ships with magnetic bases that help you hide number tokens under them when you place them out on the board. And that's important, not just as a cool gimmick, but also because the game is all about secretly bidding power as you fight for area majority and control around the board, while trying to deduce what your opponents are bidding so that you can respond accordingly. Maybe you want to bait someone into putting all their power into an area that you've discovered doesn't actually have any points, freeing you to swoop in at the last minute and win majority on an actually valuable area. Oh, it feels good. The game is all about bluffing and building an engine of resources and points and being sneaky and strategic. And of course, y'all, it's gorgeous to look at. And I just think it's really good and really fun, especially if you like player interaction. It's a little better. It's a little more drinkable now. At the number 8 spot is A Jest of Robin Hood. This is a 2-player only war game from GMT's Irregular Conflict series, which is an adaptation, I said that weird, which is an adaptation of the coin system. See, coin means counterinsurgency, C-O-I-N, from counterinsurgency makes the word coin, and GMT wanted to make coin games that depict historical conflicts that aren't counterinsurgencies, hence the Irregular Conflict tag. Look, I know I've already lost some of you with all of this, but hear me out. This game's real good. It's not easy to learn, it's not easy to master, but in my opinion, it's worth it. I mean, did you put all that effort into learning Root? A whole heck of a lot of you did. So you can do this too. And it's only 2 sides to learn, so it'll feel like a breeze. The game is actually designed to be an ideal entry point for this style of gaming, so don't be scared. I love Robin Hood as a theme. Give me all the Robin Hood stories, movies, games, more, please. So I was always going to want to like a Just of Robin Hood, just based on the theme and the art, which I can't believe I'm saying about a GMT game. Was it an investment to learn how to play? Yes. Have I won a single game yet? No. Do I love running around Nottinghamshire trying to find Robin Hood and arrest all his merry men while they use hidden movement to avoid me? Yes. Do I think the event cards are really neat and super powerful? Yes. Am I motivated to keep playing the game and try and get better at it? Yes. So if you're at all curious, I really recommend you take the plunge with this one. It's even on Board Game Arena, so you can try it there, low pressure. Game number 7 is so different from game number 8. It's so approachable, it's so quick to teach and play, and when I played it for the first time, I immediately texted all of my best friends to say, oh, we have to play this game together, y'all are gonna like it. And that was me mostly texting the whole cast of This Game is Broken. The game is Cities. I should tell you what it is. It's Cities. This is such a great team up of 2 wonderful designers, Steve Finn and Phil Walker Harding. In the game, you're trying to make the best neighborhood in one of the 8 cities that comes in the game. Each city has unique scoring goals that the players are all racing to complete, but you're also placing workers to draft personal scoring goals, city tiles to fill out your neighborhood, features to put into your neighborhood, and buildings to build in your neighborhood. It's all about clever drafting, worker placement, and set collection. It doesn't outstay its welcome, there isn't a ton of downtime, and it matters what the other players are doing. Because you're all drafting as you place your workers from the same options on the board, so what you do is going to affect what the other players are going to be able to take on their turn. This is one of those games that I think is super approachable for people newer to the hobby while still being really fun and satisfying for those of us who are a bit more entrenched in board games. It's a barrel. No, it's not. It's a mimic. Game number 6 is about one of my favorite things, cheese. Gosh, I love cheese so much. I wish I was eating cheese right now. Should I stop filming and go get some cheese to eat as a bit? In Fromage, which is game number 6, you're competing to be the most prosperous cheesemaker in France. I've been describing this game to people as viticulture, but with cheese, and honestly, I don't know if that's a very good description of the game mechanisms. In fact, I think it's not. It's not a good comparison at all. But if you like the way the theme of viticulture feels, I think you'll like the way the theme of Fromage feels. Fromage is a simultaneous worker placement game, so unless you're playing with people who can't make up their mind, basically unless you're playing with me, there is basically no downtime. And there's a smattering of resource management and contract fulfillment in there too. The game board is a big wheel of cheese with different wedges, and each turn one of those wedges is facing you because the board is rotating around. And the wedge that's facing you is where you can place a worker to get resources and make 1 cheese. And the kind of cheese you make scores differently in each wedge. One is more focused on area majority, and one is focused on set collection, as one is focused on adjacent placement of cheese, etc. But the thing that I think really makes this game interesting is the way you get your cheese workers back after they're placed on the board. Your workers are these little cheese wedges, and they get placed on the board in different orientations based on how powerful the action you take with them is. And then they rotate around on the board, and you get them back once they're facing you again, which can be the very next turn, or 2 turns later, or for the best actions, 3 turns later. And it's a really cool way to handle that, and I like it a lot. The number 5 spot on this list is The Gang from Cosmos. Now I have to say, I don't think this is the best name for this game. I would have called it The Heist, I think. But I'm not a game developer or publisher, so what do I know? I'm sure they had their reasons. Anyway, The Gang is kind of like The Crew, but with poker. This is cooperative Texas Hold'em, and you're trying to figure out how good everyone's hands of cards are and then bet that you can place them in the right order from worst to best. Basically, the theme of the game is that you're a gang trying to pull off a heist and open 3 bank vaults before you get caught. And each round where you, as a group, successfully evaluate everyone's poker hands means you get to open one bank vault. But of course, you can't just tell each other what's in your hand. And that's what makes this game feel kind of like The Crew. It's got that delicious feeling of, can we all get on the same page about what's happening here without actually saying what's happening here? And when you do, it's just an adrenaline rush. Plus, I've learned a lot more about how poker works from playing it. And the game is at a ridiculously good price point. I think at Gen Con, at least, they were selling it for like $14. You can't beat that. Game number 4 was such a lovely surprise when I discovered it this year on Board Game Arena. Okay, technically I should say that Matthew Jude discovered it because he's the one who set up the game and invited me to it, but whatever. The game is Naishi, and it's another 2-player only little card game. I love 2-player games, and it's just lovely. It's lovely to look at with this beautiful art style, and it's lovely with how simple it is to play. This is a game all about building and optimizing a tableau of cards, which represents your own little corner of Japan, I guess. So you have a river of cards between the 2 players laid out in equal stacks, little decks, with the top card face up. What a strange way to explain a game. I do this professionally, I guess. Okay, so you have your little stacks of cards in the river. Then you have your own row of tableau cards, which are face up and open information. But you also have a row of your hand cards, which are seen only by you. To start, each card is a mountain card, but on your turn, you'll take a card from the river to add to either your tableau or your hand, keeping it in the same position that it came from. So the card in river spot 2 can take the place of tableau spot 2 or hand spot 2, and you're swapping the cards out. And the different cards score in different ways based on set collection or positioning, etc. And I think what makes this game feel so interesting is the mix of open information and hidden information and trying to keep your opponent from getting what they need to score while also keeping them from messing up your plans. And you have these little tokens, they're called emissaries, you can spend for extra powers during the game, which just spices things up a bit. Playing this just makes me feel warm inside. I enjoy it so much. Side note, do you ever, when you say the word tableau, do you just want to say like tableau? I do sometimes. The number 3 game caught my eye at Gen Con, and I talked about it on my Gen Con top 10 list, but I'm talking about it again here because I think it is so good. And that game is Intarsia, designed by Michael Kiesling of Azul fame. Ever heard of it? It's okay if you haven't heard of it. But I know a lot of people have. But maybe you haven't. I don't know. It's just a joke, okay? I'm sorry. And yes, this is another game about making a pretty floor. And yes, it has incredibly lovely pieces you're setting out on your board to make that floor. And yes, I've used the word lovely maybe in every paragraph. I'm overusing the word lovely. I really love this game. I like it better than Azul. Hot take. And I want everyone to play it because I think it's better than Azul. The wooden pieces you slot into each other on your board to make your floor are so tactile and satisfying. And it looks so pretty when you're done. I really love a game that win or lose, you can look at your board afterwards and feel like you made something really cool. And I think the way you use the cards you play on your turn to get more cards, giving you more actions and extending your round, feels so good. It makes me feel clever. And there are public scoring goals you're racing toward. And I really appreciate a game that gives me strategic direction in that way. I love a game that gives you personal or public scoring goals because otherwise I am going to have analysis paralysis, especially at the beginning of the game. I'm going to be like, I don't know, there's a million choices. What should I do? Give me a goal. Now I have something I can work toward. If you like games like Azul and you get a chance to play Intarsia, please do it. I think it's really, really good. Holy crap, I wrote in this game number 2 for 2025. It's 2025 now. But this is game number 2 for 2024. I've tried to skip an entire year here. Game number 2 for 2024 is a classic Paula style game. It is all about the narrative. It's War Story Occupied France from Osprey Games, and it's designed by Dave Neal, who does a lot of escape room in a box type games, and David Thompson, who does a lot of really approachable war game style games. And I have to admit, he's one of my favorite designers. Don't tell him I said that. I see him sometimes, and now I'm going to be embarrassed. But David Thompson, I just have to admit, he's one of my favorite designers. And this is just the perfect team up for a game like this, I think. If you like choose your own adventure style, narrative-focused board games, do not sleep on this one. Also, maybe don't play it with your young kids. The story's kind of brutal. They're not pulling punches here. There's something that happens at the end of mission 1 that established like the big bad so well that I said out loud, we have to kill this guy. I hate him. And like I meant it. I don't think any board game with a narrative has ever gotten a reaction like that out of me. I've cried during this game. The story is so well written, and the choices you make feel like they matter and they're important. Every single one. Like, it's making my heart pound just thinking about how stressful it feels trying to make the right choice to keep your agents alive. So I should tell you what the game's about. Okay, you're covert agents during World War II helping the French resistance fight against the Nazis. And you have agents you choose to bring on different missions, and they have different stats based on their skills. So to pass skill checks, you add up the values of those stats to see what kind of a result you get. So there's no bad dice luck to blame when things don't go right. Just your choices and who you brought and how you assign them to tasks. You only have yourself to blame. There's something special about this game, and playing it is an experience that is going to stick with me. The number 1 game of 2024, for me, is River of Gold. I think I've known since I played this for the first time back in July that this was going to be my favorite game of the year. And it doesn't have a narrative. It isn't a highly thematic, immersive Paula-style game. It's a mid-weight Euro. Because the secret is, I like those too. I'm a full-on Omni gamer. And I love playing River of Gold. Have you seen the board for this game? It's so beautiful. The river section has this gold embossing detail, and the whole dang thing looks like it's the deluxe version, but it's not. That's just how the game looks. In the game, you are a river merchant allied with a legendary samurai clan, and you are sailing up and down the river to gain resources and fill contracts and garner favor with the different manor houses along the way. There's noise happening. You roll a die each turn to determine what action you can take or how far you can sail based on your roll. So it's kind of roll to move, but you've got divine favor you can spend to help change your roll. So it's not all down to dice luck. And as you go, gaining those resources, building along the riverbank, selling to customers, you're building yourself a nice little engine to start earning those sweet, sweet points, which you need to win a Euro game. I love how when you build along the river, you gain a reward for building, and you've also given yourself more options for resources you can pick up as you sail. Plus, later when other players stop at your buildings, you get a bonus. It's a win-win. And deciding when to loop back to the river start, when to fulfill that customer order, when to invest in a building, it's such an interesting and engaging choice. I love games like this. What you do on your turn is simple. Roll the die, take an action. But how you use those actions to solve the puzzle of scoring the most points is where the real meat is here. While also being a game you can play in like an hour-ish. It's good. The best game of the year, in my opinion. And that's what this list is. My opinion of what the best games of 2024 were. What did you enjoy playing this past year? If there's a game that you're wondering like why I didn't include it on this list, it's for one of 3 reasons. I'll tell you exactly why. It's one of these 3 reasons. 1, I didn't like it. 2, I didn't like it as much as I liked these 10 games. 3, I just haven't played it yet. A lot of games get released every year. No one can play all of them. No one. Not even Tom Vassell. I know. Happy 2025, y'all. I hope your year is filled with so many game nights it makes you barf from overindulgence. And now, to thank some important people. Thank you so much to the sponsor of this video, the World Series of Board Gaming. If you like gaming competitively and you want to test your skills as the world's greatest gamer, you can head to Las Vegas in September to compete in the World Series of Board Gaming, where the grand tournament prize is $25,000. If you would like more information, head over to wsbgvegas.com and you can use the code IAMIN for a discount on your ticket. Thank you so much to the World Series of Board Gaming for being a sponsor.